Hello, how are you? It's been a while. Hope everybody's been doing great. Things are pretty good around here. Just busy, busy, busy. The reason for the video, I've been meaning to get back into shooting videos again. Like I said, it's been a while. And my buddy Mitch posted on his Facebook page. He was curious what his friends. He called out a number of us, asking what our favorite black metal releases are, what we consider stone cold classics. This list I just went through and quickly grabbed some stuff. Yeah, I gotta put in a lot of thought into it, but ultimately, there's older and newer titles, but I think a lot of us, all coming from the same area, would have very similar picks. But these are albums that have really done a lot for me over the years. They hold up, and because this week I pick one album, next week it might be a different one in a band's catalog. But as of right now, these are just ones that jumped off the rack at me. Albums that I love. They have a lot of sentimental value. They mean a lot. But yeah, I think you had pick 12. I picked, 12, I guess, 13. And these are in no particular order. So let's get into it. See what I got here. First and foremost. Oh, and by the way, these are all CDs because I didn't want to fuck with grabbing records and putting records and CDs away. So mostly CDs. But first and foremost, if I can not get a glare on this, Merciful Fate's Melissa. People will be like, oh, that's traditional metal. That's not black metal. I mean, basically, if you take the definition of black metal as, evil music with satanic lyrics, Merciful Fate, when I was a teenager, basically, Merciful Fate made me believe that the devil was real, even though we, most sensible thinking people realize that's not the case. But, I was in high school, listening to this and Don't Break the Oath, like the lyrics to the Oath are so satanic, or no one has ever been able to touch it. The authenticity of this stuff just sounded and felt real. Atmosphere. This is, out of the two albums, I chose this for this time, just because Black Funeral, Satan's Fall, Into the Coven, Evil. Absolute classic. If you haven't heard Merciful Fate, oh my god, get with the program. Next up, another old album, but something about this album is just pure fucking creepiness, and I love it. Samael's Blood Ritual. You could go with Worship Him for more of a Hellhammer vibe. Stripped Down Primitive. You can go with Ceremony of Opposites. That is just such a symphonic and excellent album, but this album, I think, is often overlooked. Blood Ritual, you listen to this thing, the atmosphere is remarkable. Very evil. I don't know if these guys could have been considered a black metal band back in the day, but I think by all, the standards and by definition, I think this is definitely a black metal album. Amazing atmosphere. If you haven't checked this out, please do so. You'll definitely dig it. And then most of this, in fact, it's embarrassing how much of it is. In fact, it all is except for a couple. Norwegian black metal. It is a geographical location. Norway, the black metal that came out of there during the heyday really had a huge impact on me, to be honest. And to this day, I still love it. I mean, a lot of these albums have never gotten old. Never wore out for me. Fantastic records. And we'll start, and I was a little late to getting into, I was probably the mid-90s before I started to, see what all the fuss was about. People talking about black metal, burning churches, this and that, and, I had to check it out and see what was going on. The first black metal I ever heard, let me see, second wave black metal, I should say. Where is it? Ah. Well, this is one of the first things I ever heard. The Emperor Wrath of the Tyrant demo. This is the reissue of that on Wild Rags. Sorry, my monitor's up here and my camera's down here, so I'm making sure everything's... So it looks like I'm looking up, but I'm not looking at anything other than cobwebs and heat duct. But Wild Rags licensed the demo from Emperor, reissued it, and I used to run a magazine back in the day called Worm Gear, and Richard C. used to send me a shit ton of tapes for review. This was one of them, and other than the stripped down ultra necro sound, the songs just really jumped off this album at me like, holy crap, I have never heard anything quite this grim, so well composed. This was a hungry band at this time, bunch of kids doing really great things, and then I basically got online, Century Media Records, took forever to get these, but I got these in the same order. This is, people kind of like shrug their shoulders to De Mysteriis Dom Satanas, but I gotta tell you, I love this album. I love how full the production is. I love the drum work. I love the riffs. I love the bass work. And I, in particular, love Attila's unique vocal approach. You know, people say they prefer Dead. I mean, I get that. Dead had a very caustic, evil voice. You could tell when he sang, he couldn't give a shit about anything, including, personal health. His voice was so ruptured. But Attila, he had a very much a Nivik Ogre from Skinny Puppy presentation. Very unique. Really set this band apart early on. I mean, Death Crush, I think that stuff to me is a little forgettable. I mean, that's probably blasphemy to a lot of you folks, but I don't think this band really realized how good they were until this album came, and still stands the test of time for me. It's definitely a headbanger for sure. 1 second. Cheers. Second, this is the second Emperor I ever heard. This is the Emperor Enslaved Hordanes Land split out on Century Black, 1994. And I don't know why the cover turned out red. It must have been a printing error, and they just rolled with it. But I am the Black Wizards, Wrath of the Tyrant, Night of the Graveless Souls, Cosmic Keys to My Creation and Times. I mean, wow. They took what they started with this and really amped up the symphonic songwriting layers. And they made... These 4 songs are fantastic. And really, I kept listening to the first half over and over and over and over again because, I enjoyed the Enslaved part, but I was so enamored with what Emperor were doing that Enslaved did not sound as potent or creative to me as Emperor. And I'm showing a bunch of the same, but ultimately, if I had to pick a favorite Emperor album, it would be this. In the Night Side Eclipse, I think Ben made a comment in his video that I'm basically copying. That he thought the first half of this was a little tired sounding because they had recorded the songs earlier much better. The performances on the earlier releases were better. I can see that. And I think this production the keyboards get a little overbearing, but to be honest, I just can't deny how great this album is and how much I love it. I ended up getting a reissue of this. This is I have the original pressing of the vinyl, but I always had since doing Worm Gear, I had the actual promo sleeve so I ended up getting a reissue of this with the bonus tracks A Fine Day to Die by Bathory and Gypsy by Merciful Fate. But anyway, In the Night Side Eclipse, to me, probably one of the best black metal albums ever made. The atmosphere created by infinite keyboard layers is quite impressive. Love Emperor, and from here on out, the Norwegian love is just going to increase. Dark Throne, you can't have a black metal list without Dark Throne, and A Blaze in the Northern Sky, although this is probably my second favorite of the black metal genre, but when this came out, I bought it on cassette when it came out. I was a big fan of Soulside Journey. I got that album when it came out on cassette, and I worship Dark Throne. I love the Autopsy, weird death metal vibe they had going on. And then when A Blaze of Northern Sky entered the Camelot music, I happily picked it up and was shocked and appalled at how shitty it sounded and the stylistic change. I was pissed. This is before black metal had really, I think this is an original pressing too. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I hated it. I couldn't believe it. I thought it might have been a demo. Didn't know. All I know was I wasn't happy, but it took a bunch of listens and maybe a year to sit with this thing before it finally clicked, and I realized, oh, they're going for the Bathory, black metal thing. I don't know if I was calling it black metal at that point, but, the really evil metal thing. I don't really think they... Under a Funeral Moon, they definitely nailed the cold, unrelenting, churning, repetitive black metal feel, but I don't think they really perfected it until Transylvanian Hunger. I mean Fenris, he wrote all this stuff as far as I know. Yeah, this is the original pressing, Norsk Arsk, black metal, made in England. It's a great album. The fourth song in particular, I can't speak Norwegian, but I love it. Great. Cold, turning, just nasty, fucking sick vocals, and I paid a lot of money for this. I paid probably $25 for this back in the day. Still holds up. I still love listening to it. Both of these are classics. I think if it's stone cold black metal classic, I'm going to have to go Transylvanian Hunger. Next week I could pick something different. Here's one that is a Norwegian. This is a Norwegian fucking classic, and you never hear anybody talking about this album, which sucks. But this is Hades Again Shall Be. Wow, this album, absolute masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. I remember reading Metal Maniacs, the high praise. This is the Full Moon Productions. This is original pressing, as far as I know. I got it after reading a Metal Maniacs review, I think that Jeff Wagner did. And he was right. Whatever he had to say about it convinced me that I had to check this out. And you don't ever hear anybody talk about this, but the songs are mostly mid-paced, triumphant, but with the Norwegian style where all six strings are played. Very, pagan triumph from the opening da-na-na, bum 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 bum. You get chills, man. It's just so fucking good. Everybody claims they like the album after this better. Man, they're wrong. This is so much better than anything else they ever did in their catalog. And I do like a lot of the stuff they've done, but this album, to me, is Norwegian perfection. And it's black metal perfection. It's interestingly written. The songs are long. The vocals are piercing. Great harmonies, great melodies. God, check this album out if you have not heard it. It is fantastic. Norwegian, that's not... Bursum. Say what you want about Varg. The guy's a goddamn musical genius. And this is... Look at this piece of crap. This is... I bought this at a Michigan Metal Fest. It might have been a Metal Mom Fest. I bought this from David Horn from SOD. He had a merch table up. And this is Misanthropy Records pressing. And it's fallen apart over the years. I bought this just because I wanted to hear, more from this black metal thing, and honestly, I was blown away at how great this is. I really like the instrumentals on here. The guitar, I can't remember the names of the songs, and half of it's in Norwegian anyway. Most of it is. But I think the first album, the Burzum, self-titled, little thrashy, little okay. It's okay, but it wasn't until this album that he really, and the Aske EP, really found the sound. I like just about everything this guy's done metal-wise, and this is by far my favorite. Probably because it was the first one I heard, but I think there's a lot of... I really like the Python production on this, the Grieg Holland, Studio Grieg Holland. A lot of this stuff was recorded there, but Really roomy, really atmospheric, really dark, really unique. I think he had a way of capturing the artist. Getting back to Ben's beef with Peter Tägtgren. I should probably make a video in response to that because I have some things I could say about that. But anyway, excellent album. My favorite Bursum for sure. Next up, another Norwegian fucking classic. And this is Vinder's Arntor. This is on The Head Not Found, Voices of Wonder. I like all of Vinder's stuff, but I will say, well, again, this is the first one I ever heard, and it blew me away. The harmonies are fantastic. The melodies stick with you. It's really too bad this guy passed away, because he probably had a lot more music in him, but this album, I listened to the debut, I listened to the couple that came after it, but this one always, I hit play on this one, I know I'm listening to it at least 3 times. It's the way it's going to be. I have to set aside a block of my day just for this album. You can almost hear the windswept mountains and the trees and the forests coming through the speakers on this album, and there's not many artists that can do that. This guy could do that. He had a great sound. He was Norwegian black metal or pagan metal or whatever you want to call it, but he had his own sound and style, and gone too soon. Next up, Dodheimsgard Kronet til Konge. By far my favorite Dodheimsgard album. Ben, like you mentioned Ben a lot, he would disagree with me on this. But there is something strangely unique about this album. Fenris plays bass on it. So he's also credited as vocals. I don't know what he did on here, but Aldron. He I think he did most of the. No, he didn't. There we go. Huh, Vignatic, it says backing voice. Maybe Fenris did do the vocals on this. I don't know for sure exactly, but they're unique. It's like a shouted, it's not the piercing, cancerous, rah! It's the more of a yelled, triumphant yelling style, and the music on this is fantastic. This is on Malicious Records. Original pressing. Got it when it came out, or around the time it came out. Love this album. After this, they got a little more technical, a little more claustrophobic sounding, a little more caustic sounding, a little more industrial sounding. Their sound has been like this, which, I mean, it keeps bands interesting. I understand that. But, yeah, I mean, I just can't get away from this album. It's my favorite by them. I love listening to it. I don't remember. I think it's the 4th song. There's a music break or music bridge in the center that's just, every time I hear it, I'm just like, yes! So fucking good. Next up, Ulver with Bergtatt. I don't know what to say about this album other than it's a class by itself. Roomy, atmospheric. It's, you can hear the woods, the mountains, the trees. You can, this sounds like wilderness put to music, which is cheesier and shit to say, but that's just what I get out of it. And it's one of those things where I hear it and my mind just goes into those hills and trees and mountains and wants to stay there. And this band, to me, put out 2 amazing albums. This one and Nattens Madrigal. At the time, I was a little shocked and taken aback at how caustic that sounded, but you can't deny the riffs in that thing, the songwriting. Kveldsanger, a lot of people love that too, and I do like it. It's just, to me, it sounds like they're wasting time. Classical treatments, vocal treatments, practice. I don't know. This one, the first one, and Nattens Madrigal, to me, are classics, but this one definitely takes the cake. The last of the Norwegian stuff I've got, I don't know how to pronounce, I never know how to pronounce this, Tak or Tok or Take or I don't know. But the debut, Natstid, love it, absolutely great. True, this is a newer guy. it seems like Norwegian black metal, it came to a point where it started getting so popular, bands either splintered off into like technical death metal or they went strangely electronic. And there were very few bands that came out that held the torch for the old style of Norwegian black metal. But this band did, and he continues to do so. And for that, I think he's fantastic. Am I still recording? Yes. Great album, caustic, excellent harmonies, well written, fantastic. Check it out. And the two I'm ending with are not Norwegian. Had to pick a summoning, so I had to go back to an early on summoning that I heard. I think this is the first one I heard, Minas Morgul. This might be an original pressing. I don't know for sure. I ended up getting it some years later after having a dub of it. You could argue that this is very much symphonic black metal mixed with dungeon synth. And probably why I like dungeon synth so much these days, because I'm just jonesing for a new summoning, and it's coming January. But anyway, these guys, the guys from Abigor, one of the guys from Abigor, Middle Earth themed music, centered around a thin sounding Casio keyboard, simplistic but powerful melodies, ultra scathing vocals, well written black metal thrown over the top. I mean, coming off Lugbers, this is definitely a monument, and bands like Caladan Brood have tried to emulate it and haven't been able to beat it. I do like Caladan Brood, but this is by far superior summoning. And lastly, I like Graveland. I like the early black metal stuff. I like the later, more triumphant pagan-y metal stuff, but something special about this following the voice of blood. If you can tolerate really shitty drums, I just liked how simplistic and plotting and primitive the riffs were, and how guttural the vocals are. Yeah, these, I'm not really proud of showing, pseudo-Nazi stuff, but this is a great album, and Graveland definitely has its place, especially for putting Poland on the map for black metal. Great stuff. This is a good album, like I said, if you're into primitive, not perfect stuff. So that's it. I mean, nothing really groundbreaking or something you've never heard of before, but those are some favorites. And Mitch, thanks for throwing that out there and getting me back into shooting videos. I'm probably going to start again here. I haven't been buying a lot of stuff because money's a little tight. I've been buying a lot of tapes because they're cheap, and I've been finding a little bit of solace in dungeon synthetic synthesizer music. And, I have a few records here and there too, but not very many. But, yeah, it's good to see y'all do, and I hope you're doing great. And thanks. Let's talk about this. What are some of your favorites? Maybe there's something that I've missed that you should point me in the right direction on, especially Norwegian black metal. Always on the hunt. So get with me. Let's talk about it. Have a good one. See ya.